Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Ve salatu ve selamu ala seyyidina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecma'in. Esselamu aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. You are watching Hayrat TV. And this is the Moments of Reflection with Risalah An-Nur. We are here with you every week, every 2 weeks. And we read and discuss Risalah An-Nur, written by Imam Bediuzzaman Said Nursi. Today's program is about the importance of saving or losing one's eternal life in the hereafter. We are going to read and discuss the 4th issue from the Fruit Epistle. Joining us today, Brother Yusuf Kara, one of the representatives of Hayrat Foundation in Malaysia. He is also the manager of Nursi Research and Training Center at the International Islamic University of Malaysia. Brother Yusuf, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Brother Yunus Emre.
And Brother Ismail Turgut, he is the representative of Hayrat Foundation in the Netherlands. Brother Ismail, welcome.
Thank you very much, Brother Yunus. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Before we start our program, first, we remember our shuhada and veterans with prayers and gratitude at the 4th anniversary of July 15th, the failed coup attempt by FETÖ. We thank Allah for His blessing and mercy on this nation and saving us from the great disaster on that day in 2016. Secondly, we would like to share how we are happy and delighted with the reopening of Hagia Sophia Mosque in Istanbul. Last Friday, on July 10th, with the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's decree, Hagia Sophia was reopened as a mosque. Hagia Sophia's turning into a mosque was a dream and a goal for millions of Muslims for generations in Turkey. And we thank Allah for this. Now I'd like to ask Brother Yusuf to tell us about Hagia Sophia and Imam Bediuzzaman. Can you please tell us about that, please?
Okay, inshallah, Brother Yunus Emre. Thank you very much. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thanks.
And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this program of ours an auspicious and beneficial one for all of us and a rewardful one, inshallah. Of course, alhamdulillah, we are very happy these days because of the reversion of Hagia Sophia to its original form, or Hagia Sophia, to its original form. That is that there is the masjid, there is a mosque for 500 years. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward everyone and first and foremost our President Recep Tayyip Erdogan for his efforts to reopen it as a masjid. And alhamdulillah, it is not only the Turkish people but also all Muslims across the globe that share this joy, alhamdulillah. In Malaysia, in many parts of the world, we are personally experiencing, and on media also, we see how people are happy and sharing their joy and making dua, for the ummah, and they're happy that alhamdulillah, Hagia Sophia or Hagia Sophia was turned back to a masjid, and they are happy also that this is a means for all of them once again to come to Turkey, to visit Turkey, Istanbul, and to go into Hagia Sophia or Hagia Sophia as a masjid, to take wudu and enter into and pray a salah. They are all making du'as for this. So this is actually a historic step. This is a very important and historic step taken. It was a masjid for 500 years, and then it was made into a museum for some time. But now, alhamdulillah, we are once again happy for it to be a masjid. And here at this point, I want to share just a couple of points from Imam Bediuzzaman, how actually he appreciated how the importance that he attached to Hagia Sophia. Actually, he mentions the name of Hagia Sophia a lot of times in the Risalah An-Nur, many times. For example, he says if a person goes into a masjid like Hagia Sophia, or when he gives an example from Tawheed, telling about for example, the stones. He says the stones in the dome of Hagia Sophia, if each one of them had a were supposed to stand together, without an architect. So they were supposed to have conscience, and they were supposed to be ruling over each other, and also to be dependent over each other, so that they all together, could maintain their unity, to stand, marvelously on the dome of Hagia Sophia or Hagia Sophia. But it is through an architect that it is taking place. It is staying like this. So likewise, Allah, there is a God of the universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who creates everything and keeps everything under his reign, so that everything, like the stones in the dome of Hagia Sophia, also staying shoulder to shoulder, head to head, forming the universe in a marvelous manner. So he's giving again the Hagia Sophia in this example. And last but not least, in our real life, Imam Bediuzzaman Said Nursi in 1950s, when Adnan Menderes took power in 1950s in Turkey. So Imam Bediuzzaman asked him to 3 things, and one of them was to reopen Hagia Sophia or Hagia Sophia as a masjid. So this was one of the 3 most important things that he asked him to do. So it is clear that Imam Bediuzzaman, like many other scholars and Muslims, attached very great importance to Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia is a symbol, is an icon for Muslims, for Islam, for the conquest of Istanbul. So it is worthy to remain as a masjid. And we ask Allah subhanahu, we are alhamdulillah thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for blessing us with such, alhamdulillah, reopening. And we all share the joy of this, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who can go and inshallah pray in the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul.
Inshallah. Thanks a lot for that, Brother Yusuf.
Alhamdulillah, you're welcome.
Now, today, the piece that we are going to read emphasizes that the case of winning or losing one's life in Akhirah is a far bigger reality than a world war. So today we are reading the 4th issue from the Fruit episode. Now let me start reading the piece. The 4th issue. The brothers that serve me once asked me a question that has also been clarified in a guide for youth. It has been 50 days now, and you have not once asked for news about the appalling World War II. In fact, it has been over 7 years, and I have still not asked, that has thrust the world into such chaos, and that bears on the faith of Islam. It does not seem even to enkindle your interest. On the other hand, certain religious and scholarly individuals abandon the congregation and the mosque and rush to listen to the radio. Now we wonder, could there be an event more momentous than the war? Or is it that some harm lies in occupying oneself with it? So this is the question of Imam Nursi's students. Brother Yusuf, could you please explain us this part?
Okay, inshallah. Yes, as we have said, today's topic is about 2 questions of the students of Imam Bediuzzaman Said Nursi posed to him. And this question is about World War II and the World War II that took place in 1930s and 40s. Of course, have thrust the world into chaos, and of course, concerns the fate of Islam and also other countries, especially other countries. And Imam Bediuzzaman Said Nursi, who is a very influential scholar, who is not only a scholar of writing books and giving talks and doing scholarly activities, but also he is a social activist. Especially he was a social activist in his early part of his life, as he calls it, Old Said and New Said. So in the Old Said period, he was very active, speaking to people, to tribes, to public, writing articles, stopping riots, meeting the sultans of Ottoman, very influential member of the highest board of Islam, of the religious authority in the Ottoman of that time. So being a very influential person who is communicating, speaking, visiting to so many important groups, wide groups, etc. And also in the First World War I, he also attended the World War itself, because the Ottoman was part of the war in many places. So Imam Bediuzzaman, with his students, he engaged in the war as well. He trained them on shooting, and he even became the commander of 3,000 to 4,000 other people, in addition to his 1,000 students. So totally 4,000 to 5,000 people, ruling them. He attended the war as a commander. And also he was captivated at the end of the war, because Ottoman lost the war, and he was captivated also by Russia and taken to Russia. So such a person who was active in almost everywhere, even attended the First World War I, did not ask about the Second World War as it was taking place. So the students are saying, for 50 days now, the war started. After 50 days, Imam Bediuzzaman didn't ask his students about the war. And even when this piece was written, it was 7 years by then. It was 7 years. Still, he didn't ask about the war. And then, while at the same time, on the days of the war, other people, even scholars, were rushing to the radio, because radio was the source of information, books, newspapers, and radio. So radio was the most up-to-date, was the most, instant medium of information. Of course, today we have much more, right? Televisions, internet. The whole laptop is now in our mobile phones, right? So we have access to everything instantly, and in a great dimension, to a great extent. But at that time, still, a radio was a source of information, and people were rushing to radio to listen about the war. But at the same time, Imam Bediuzzaman Said Nursi didn't have any interest in the war. So this has, just attracted the attentions of the students of Imam Bediuzzaman. And you can also see the subtle point here that students have the, freedom to ask. They don't keep silent. They don't say, wow, there should be a reason we should keep silent. He should be, he can be angry at us, etc. No, they ask a question when they don't understand why he's doing so, and to which Imam Bediuzzaman will answer the questions. So what are the questions? There are two questions here. Question number one: we wonder, could there be an event more momentous than the war? Because he's not asking about the war. Okay, so could there be an event that is more momentous than the war? Question one. And question two: or is it that some harm lies in occupying oneself with it? Or is it harmful to ask about the war, to follow the war? Is there any harm, in occupying oneself with it? So these are the two questions, and inshallah, the rest of the text will deal with the answers of the questions.
Thank you. Let me continue reading. I said as an answer, life's capital is minimal. Yet, there are very many crucial matters to take care of. Many spheres exist in the world of a human being, like concentric circles, beginning with the sphere of heart and stomach, then the sphere of body and home, the sphere of neighborhood and city, the sphere of homeland and country, the sphere of the earth and mankind, onto the sphere of living creatures and this world itself. Every human being may, to some degree, have a role to play in each sphere. Yet, the greatest, most important, and most permanent duty lies in the sphere that is the smallest. Indeed, the smallest duty, although temporary and to be fulfilled only from time to time, may exist within the greatest of spheres. According to this logic, these duties may well correspond to spheres that are inversely proportional with respect to their greatness and littleness. Yet, the greater spheres wield an attraction, and because of this, man occupies himself with useless, fruitless, extraneous matters, leaving his crucial service in the smaller spheres. He futilely squanders the capital of his life itself. He wastes his precious life engaging in things of no value. So, Brother Ismail, can you please tell us about these circles within one another in a person's life?
Of course. First of all, I want to thank you to give this opportunity to reflect on this very important issue. As we said in the title, a case opened against human being, every single human being. So I think it's very important to discuss, to reflect about this, and to know actually, to learn actually how to spend our time and where to focus on. Let's start with the first paragraph. These two paragraphs are very important. Let's handle them. Imam Nursi says in the first paragraph, as we read, life's capital is minimal, and then yet there are very many crucial matters to take care of. He sees life and time actually as a capital. And what do we have to understand from capital? We know that capital is something a trader uses to gain more or to take profit from. So it's a material or it's money for a trader to take profit of, to gain more. And when we look to life capital, can see it as something to invest and to get more. We can think about using it for this life. And as Imam Nursi mentions in very many places in his collection of light, in the Book of Lights, in Risalah An-Nur, that Allah gave us this capital to use it for the hereafter, for things, for a investment to things which matter or eternal life, the hereafter. So we see that there are many crucial matters which exist, and he talks here in the second sentence about spheres, circles actually, which exist and which we have interest in. For example, he says concentric circles, beginning with the sphere of heart and stomach. This is actually the smallest circle, smallest sphere, and it's related to our heart. And when we talk about our heart, it's our spiritual life. It is in which our iman is, and it is everything actually what concerns, what is related to the hereafter. And the stomach. So to keep alive, to continue with life, we have to work and earn money to seek to provision of Allah, a rizq, and that's also important. That's something we have to do daily. And then we go to the sphere of body and home. This is the second circle in which our duty is less than the first circle. Because if we look to home, it's about, of course, our family, of things to do in our home. And body is about health. That's also an important thing. So the first and second circle are very important. Then we go to the sphere, the circle of neighborhood and city. We see that in this third circle, the duties which lies in them are less than the second. So the bigger the circles become the less duties we have actually. For example, if you talk about the neighborhood, about the street in which we live, we don't have much duties in it. Maybe we have to come together with a board of the neighborhood and speak about a important thing which occurs in your neighborhood. For example, coming new parking places, but that does not happen daily. That, for example, happens once a year. And then he's talking about the sphere of homeland and country. And when we talk about country, which sort of duty we could have concerning the country in which we live. I live in the Netherlands, and here we have 4 year or 5 year, we have a election. So during that election, I go and I give my vote to someone. That's the only thing actually for an average person to do in that circle. That's the only duty. And then we go on with another circle, sphere, the sphere of the earth and mankind, and then the sphere of living creatures and this world. This is a very mondial thing, and we see here actually that the bigger the circles become, the less duties we have in it. So if you go to the second paragraph, we see actually that the most important and the greatest goal or greatest duty is in the smallest circle. And what the problem here may be is that the spheres of the greater circles actually, they have an attraction. So we talked about the radio in the question. Brother Yusuf had explained that. In that time, in the 40s and 50s, maybe radio was an important thing, an attractive thing. And if you look now, is radio a very important thing for people who were attractive? I don't think so. And if you look today, radio was only voice which enters from the or and which can, for example, damage our heart negatively. But when we look today to social media and all information channels which we can reach instantly, there are many things which are attractive and which are lying in this biggest circle. So there is a, we can say, danger, or we have to look after it. We have to take care of it, because this attractiveness of those biggest circles, for example, following politics also, or following things on social media which does not help us from a perspective of the worldly or hereafter, that this sort of things can forget us our duty in that small circle, and then especially the circle, the duty of the heart, the belief, or hereafter. Everything is related, or hereafter, the eternal life is related to that circle. So we have to take care of that, really. And Imam Nursi is presenting here, I think, a very proper and nice perspective to look through and to think, to reflect about it. What we do with our energy, with our time, where we spend it to. So I think this is very important to reflect on. If Brother Yusuf wants to say or add something about this paragraph, I would appreciate that also.
Okay, thank you. Brother Yusuf, what would you like to add here?
Okay. Yes, after the questions, these paragraphs are addressing the first question. That is there anything more momentous than the World War? So Bediuzzaman is making an introduction to this, actually. So as Brother Ismail summarized, he says there are very many crucial matters that a person should take care of in his life, and there are a lot of circles. So he is, categorizing them into circles, and then he says the most important and the most constant two things here. In terms of importance, in terms of quality, the most important, and in terms of constancy, in terms of time, in terms of constancy, the most constant duties lie in the smallest circle. Okay, as we, enlarge in the circles, that is the smallest circle, as brother Ismail mentioned, is our personal self, right? The source of our spirituality, heart, and the source of our physical existence, that is our stomach. So these two are important for our existence in this world and for our, life of akhirah. And the other circles, okay, still we have responsibilities, as brother mentioned. For example, our family. We have very big, important responsibilities for our family, right? It is on my shoulders to take care of my family, right? About my wife, about my children, about my parents, right? And then my relatives, I can enlarge the circles, right? And then my friends in my vicinity, in my neighborhood, okay? So my responsibilities are the most important and most constant, first for myself, because I am the only one responsible for myself. I'm the first person that is responsible for myself. No one is initially responsible to take care of myself, my spirituality, and my physical existence. I am the one in the first place. So, and then the second, important and second constant responsibility, okay, in terms of sequence, we can say less important and less constant responsibility is for the family, right? And then we can enlarge. So as we go to, our city, our country, and the world, humanity, even beyond the humanity, living beings, all existence, we might still have responsibilities, but very little responsibilities. Maybe many people don't have any responsibility at all, as brother mentioned. Maybe we have once in 5 years just voting for our country. Maybe that's all. Of course, some people may have authorities, may have, administrational positions, and they can, let's say, a person working in the ministry, okay? So that person's duty is, is for whole country, right? So this is why that is something actually different. But, majority of people, as we mean, is actually responsible for something few, very few only. So when this is small, okay, when the circle is small, the responsibility is biggest and most constant, and when the circle is large, the responsibility is less, almost no, and the constancy is also very few. Yes, brother Ismail.
Yeah, what also important is here to mention, I think, is that when we neglect the duties in the first and the second circle, no one can perform those duties. So the duties which are related to our heart or belief, or the duties against as family and home, these are duties which no one can do except ourselves. That's a very important thing, because in the biggest circles there are many people who can do that and who have also duties to do that. Actually, when we go to the, for example, to the biggest circle, we see it's about, for example, politics, etc. And there are many people in politics who have the governing status, so they have that duty. But we, as average people, we don't have some influence actually in those circles. But as we said, the attractiveness, that's I think a very important term. The attractiveness is very high of those things, so attractive that millions of people actually are spending their time in those circles, in those spheres in which they have no influence in. And that's the problem here is actually that then we forget our duty in the first, especially in the first and in the second circle. Yeah. So we have to take care on that and to take attention to that.
Yes, that's very important. As you just said, it is attractive, right? Attractive, this is the problem. That's why we think we should be in that world, because we see that everyone is talking about that. So we think, okay, we should also be talking about that. But Imam Bediuzzaman says there are two worlds. One is our individual world. One is the world that as we know it. Our individual world can end anytime. but our general world will continue as it looks like that, unless the doomsday takes place any moment, right? It seems that it will continue, but my death can be any time, okay? I can, things can change in my life rapidly, okay? But not in the global world. In the global world, things will continue, normally. So I think I'm thinking that I'm diluted into the thought that I should engage myself, with the entire world. But actually, my life is very, vulnerable, and I should be taking care of my life, right? So my life is not like strong as the other, world. My life, my, existence is very vulnerable, and my duties, the point here is, my duties are more important than the world itself. And here maybe we can also attract the attentions to a couple of concepts. Maybe we can say the sphere of interest, the sphere of, and then influence, and even the sphere of authority. For example, our sphere of interest may be very broad, right? We can be interested because since we are human beings, we are interested, we are connected.
We are social creatures.
We are social beings, absolutely. And we have been created in such a way that, we are concerned about what's going on, even in the ozone layer, what's going on in America, what's going on maybe in other Mars, Jupiter, Moon, what is there, we want to go and explore, right? So we are somehow interested in very small bits of information, in a country, in a land, in a culture, etc. We are interested to know about them. Yes, fine. But what is our influence in those areas? And what is my authority in those areas? Maybe I don't have any influence and I don't have any responsibility or authority within those spheres. So I am actually the only one person, the initial person that is, responsible and that is influential in my personal sphere, right? So that is my spiritual life, and that is the real thing for myself, and then my physical existence. So actually it is, as brother said, it is attractive, right? The large circle is attractive. That's why we are actually diluted into it. But we should use our wonder, our curiosity, our faculty of curiosity wisely and correctly. Otherwise it would, it would drive us into things that actually I have no benefit of. I have no responsibility, and I have no influence.
Now that you mentioned about this attractiveness, the greater circles get attraction a lot. So I can share two things here. Some Sahaba ask Rasulullah ﷺ, when is the doomsday? Muslims really wonder about the doomsday. So Sahaba also asked Rasulullah ﷺ, when is the doomsday? And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ answers, what did you prepare for it? So the time of the doomsday is actually in the outer circles for a person. But preparing oneself for that day is within the small circle. So preparing ourselves is has the most important part, not the date of the doomsday. And there's also another story about this, a story of Nasreddin Hoca. He's a historical wise figure here in Turkey. And people come and ask Nasreddin Hoca, when is the doomsday? He answers in a very witty way. He asks, which one? The smaller or the bigger? And the people ask, are there two doomsdays? And he answers, yes, the smaller doomsday is when my wife dies, and the bigger doomsday is when I die. So I think this story also points at the importance of the smaller circle in a person's life.
Yes, can I add something here?
Yes, please.
As Brother Yunus of Yusuf said also about we have a life as a person. Actually, every single human being has an own life, an own world, with own thoughts, with own experiences, etc. That's so we can claim that actually when there are living 7 billion or 8 billion people, so many worlds exist. So every single being is a world. But we have also another world, and that's the real world. That's the world in which we live together with 8 billion people. And there is a difference between these two worlds, which we, with some of us, or we neglect sometimes. And that's the real world in which we live is constant, and it's every day here. But when we look to ourselves, we have poverty, and we can become ill, and all of us are gonna die. So that's another thing than the real or great the real world. So we have to take attention here also. Imam Nursi is giving a nice example to understand this. He says, when you have a mirror, when you place a mirror in the air above a city, for example, you see in that mirror the city, the whole city you can see in that mirror if you look to that mirror. But when you look to the city, that's the real city. But the city which you see at the mirror is not the real one. That's a illusion. That's an illusion. And if you move that mirror, or if you break that mirror, the city is also gone. That city in that mirror, but the real city is alive. It's constant. So who is that mirror? Actually, every single human being is like that mirror. It can break. That means we can die every moment, at every age. So we have to take attention here, actually, to these two worlds, to not, how can we say that, to not, to separate them, actually. A life in which we have, the life which we have is a life with illnesses and with death, but the other world is constant, and until the doomsday, it will be there. But our doomsday is when we are gonna die. So we have to take attention for that also, I think.
Okay, thank you for that. I think let's move on with the reading. As the students asked, is there something or a case more important than this world war? I'll read that part and I'll ask you to explain that. So Imam Nursi says, a case concerning each human being has been opened that involves, in return for faith, either the obtainment or the loss of an ever-abiding, endlessly eternal tillage or property, ornamented with gardens and palaces, the extent of which is as that of the entire earth. If he does not obtain full certification of his faith, he will lose. Many of the people of this time have lost their cases by reason of the plague of materialism. So Imam Nursi actually mentioned the case here. So Brother Yusuf, can you please tell us about this case, which is more important than the world war?
Yes, of course. As the question started with a global matter, that is the World War II, and something that everyone was curious about. And Bediuzzaman was not curious at all, and he was not paying any attention at all. And this, enkindled or this attracted the attentions of the students, and they asked why. So he says here, a case concerning each human being has been opened, that involves, in return for faith, either the obtainment or the loss of an ever-abiding, etc., world or earth. Okay, so Imam Bediuzzaman says, a case, like a court case, in, for example, today's time, if a court case is opened for a person, if you receive an official letter, okay, from the judiciary saying that somebody, sued you and there's a court case, you're being called, for a hearing, okay, in this court, blah, blah. So you have to come here and answer, in the court, the questions, the allegations against you. And there is an issue that really we are, involved in. There's a crime issue, there's a theft issue, and we are involved in. So we are one of the parts. Maybe we are guilty. We might be guilty. So we should defend ourselves, right? We should collect all the material, all the data, all the findings, all the proofs, evidences that I am innocent, right? So, and if I'm found guilty, I'm going to be sentenced to, let's say, 20 years of imprisonment. So if this is the case opened against me, so what would I do? Do you think I would, after reading the letter, I would say, okay, fine, I will take care of it one day, and then I would go out. The first thing I would do is to go out and enjoy myself, okay, and come back and sleep, have a good nice sleep, and the second day to go out again to have entertainments, to play games, to hang out with friends, and for days, months, I don't take any attention to this court, and then the court day comes, and then they call me, etc. Do you think is it gonna happen like this? This is quite ridiculous. No person on earth would do that, because that issue would make him lose his sleep, would make him lose his appetite for food and for drink, right? Would make him an unsocial person. He would never go out, recklessly, happily, not thinking about the court. Rather, he would spend every minute of his life for this court case until he clears himself of it, right? So this is a court case concerning this life, and the punishment is maximum, let's say, 20 years. But this is what's going to happen if somebody is called for a hearing, right? This is what's going to happen for every person. Every person will spend this kind of a time, energy, care, right, attention to this issue, and he would be freaking out. He can never be free. He can never feel comfortable until he solves it out. So in our case here, this is an assumption, okay? Alhamdulillah, we are not of those who are opened a court against in this world. So we are here speaking comfortably, but a case is opened, has been opened for each and every person on earth. What case is this? This case is, we have been created, and there is a creator of every individual, and whether we have found and believed in his existence, the existence of the creator, whether we have believed in him as our creator, and whether we have obeyed him, right? Whether we have done our duties for him, whether we have been, obeying him in our relationships with other people, and at the end, whether I'm going to win the Jannah, that is an ever-abiding tillage, place of amusement, entertainment, right? In a maximum, quality, right? In a non-ending time span, right? Compared to my life here, that is minimum, that is minimal. The life's capital was minimal, right? As it was said in the beginning. So our life is minimal and not very quality, actually, because we don't have much money to enjoy ourselves. We don't have much comfort, much time to do that, health to do that, lifetime to do that. So it is short in time and less in quality. But Jannah is never ending in time, in terms of time, and highly quality. There is no end to its quality in terms of quality. So this is the case that is opened for us, whether I am going to win that Jannah or lose that Jannah and go to Jahannam. And the allegation is, or the questions about me is, did you believe in Allah? Did you find your creator? And did you obey him? Did you perform all your duties to him? Right? So this is the case. And this case has been opened for everyone. There is no exception. No one is exceptional, right? So what should be? I mean, should we can we still be comfortable and not care about this case? Can we go on with our life without, thinking about it and worrying about it? So this is the issue here. So, and this case is about, before I give the floor to Brother Ismail, this case is about which sphere? Brother Ismail summarized the spheres. There are 6 spheres, right? This case concerns our smallest sphere, smallest circle. That is my heart, right? My stomach is especially to continue in this world so that I can exist and I can do my duties for akhirah also, for Allah also. And also my life is an amana, my body is an amana. I have to also, take care of it. Also, this is my responsibility by Allah. So, especially my heart, that is my iman, that is my ibadah, that is my akhlaq. So, I have to pay attention to it so that I can win this case. So, this case, the case of my existence, concerns my smallest sphere. So, this is why we should all be concerned about this case, and we should all be spending our time, energy, curiosity, whatever, time, knowledge, capacity, everything to win this case. And that's why we should all be worried and concerned about our smallest circle. And of course, as the circles gets bigger, we still have responsibilities. For our family, for example, right? Prophet Muhammad says, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. So every one of you is a shepherd, right? And every one of you is responsible for what he is taking care of. So we are again responsible for our families, relatives, friends, right? As the circle, is gets large. So my responsibility gets less. So this is why this is the case that we should all take care of, pay attention to.
Thank you. So, Brother Ismail, what would you like to say about this case?
Of course, as we mentioned in the title, a case opened to against every single human being. So it's not only we as 3 people here speaking about it. It's a case opened to every single being. So it's the action of Imam Nursi, that he doesn't speak, doesn't listen to the radio, doesn't speak about it, doesn't look to news about that Second World War, which attracted actually the curiosity of the students. That's, I think, a very original action. He's letting the students see that there is a very more important thing, and that's al-iman, that's the belief. So, and as we said, the smallest, those things lies in the smallest circles, and no one else, only we can spend time to our heart, to everything which relates to ourselves, our belief, supplication, etc. All these things are in investment for the hereafter. We have a limited energy, we have a limited time. As the Prophet ﷺ said, that we as humankind are maghboon, he says. So we are neglecting, actually, we are not knowing the worth of time and of health. So we have to reflect about it, I think, and these what we read here is a good manner to reflect about it, I think, because it was a thing, as we read in the question, that attracted even the people of the mosques, people of religion leaders. They went to the radios, to that attractive thing, the Second World War, which people thought that it is the most important thing at that time. But there is one man, he is doing something else, and that does he with a meaning, with a very important meaning, we read. So we have to reflect, and we have to understand, be conscious about it, actually, where we spend our time, this limited time and limited energy. May Allah help us to manage our time, manage our energy, actually, or health, to do good, to do the things in which we can influence, actually, and which are a investment for our hereafter, for our eternal life.
Thank you, brother. My last question about this will go to Brother Yusuf. Imam Nursi mentions a danger of losing the case, and alhamdulillah, we are Muslims, and there are a lot of Muslims. So, is there a danger of losing this case, Brother Yusuf, for Muslims?
Okay. Of course, the danger is always there, because it is never guaranteed for anybody to either go to Jannah or Jahannam, because it is based on our actions, our iman and our actions. Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati ila akhiri. So it is mentioned a number of times in the Quran that we have two basic responsibilities. One is to have faith in Allah, and the second one is to do good deeds, right? Which is ibadah, which is good moral values. And especially the iman is the key, the first and foremost key to enter Jannah. If somebody loses the iman, no matter how many ibadah he had in his life, how much worship he did in his life, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he passed away without iman. So his good deeds, will not make him go to Jannah at all. So, of course, iman is the most important thing here. And of course, ibadah is another actually carrier of iman, is another saver of iman, because both helps each other. A strong iman leads to strong ibadah. A strong ibadah leads to strong iman. So both are important. But iman has, here Imam Bediuzzaman Said Nursi's focus is especially on the plague of materialism and on losing or saving the iman. This is important in this age because this age is marked by materialism, positivism, atheism, and so many isms that is against faith. And it's, we are under a theoretical as well as a practical onslaught of atheist ideologies, theoretical and social, practical ideologies and philosophies, philosophy of thought, philosophy of life. So this is why Muslims should be strong. Muslims should preserve their iman. But in terms of preserving our iman, there is a threat within the last few decades and centuries, we can say, especially because the West has produced the sciences, today's modern sciences, and technologies, of course, and they have exported their sciences, scientific books, and their technologies. Okay, fine. So what's wrong with this? With the science, when we are all reading, our books, from childhood up until the university and above, when we are reading the books, from Western perspective, when we study them from the nature perspective of the nature, actually, let's not say Western, the perspective of the nature, materialism. Okay, so we are all learning the things from the point of view of the creation itself, from the point of view of the nature itself. Okay, and it's not called a creation, by the way, in the books, right? So it's called as nature, it's called as material. So it's all studied and discussed in a way that there is no God, right? They never make reference to the creator. They always explain the things within itself. So this has made and can make many people to lose their faith, and it makes it actually. And today, for example, there are polls that are conducted in many Muslim countries. Also, the rate of atheism is increasing in all Muslim countries. The rate of atheism, deism, which means you believe in the existence of a God, but you say, okay, the God is left us. Okay, so he doesn't exist at all, and he doesn't involve, he doesn't interfere with our matters, right? So this kind of different opinions exist. So there are actually, I can summarize 3 threats that can make us lose our faith. Number one, somebody can lose his or her iman totally in terms of the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he can come to the conclusion that the nature exists on itself, It takes place through cause and effect, through natural laws, right? As Imam Bediuzzaman summarizes in the Epistle on Nature in the 23rd flash. So somebody can come to the conclusion, a Muslim become a murtad, saying that there is no God. I believe that the nature, conducts itself. A second delusion from Iman can be somebody can still believe in Allah, but he can have problems with the names of Allah, with the attributes of Allah, with the activities of Allah. Why Allah is doing so? So if Allah is doing so, it means Allah is not Rahim. You see, he believes in Allah, but he says, he cannot understand the mercy of Allah because he is not informed about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't study it, right? He didn't study what he sees, how it can be reconciled with the mercy of Allah. He should study it, right? From the Muslim perspective. Before studying it, he comes to the conclusion that if this is so, it means that Allah is not merciful. If this is so, it means Allah is not Razzaq. If this is so, it means Allah is so and so. So now he has problems with the names and attributes of Allah, which means also, the Iman is not complete, right? The faith is incomplete, so it is not a true, complete faith. So a person again can lose his or her Iman. They can deny some ayat of the Quran, for example. They say why it is so, how it is not impossible to be like this, right? They may not understand, they may disagree. It is clear that they believe in the Quran, but they don't believe in one verse of the Quran. It means, their Iman is gone. And the third threat can be, again, as Bediuzzaman says, every sin, carries a path to kufr. Because the sins are so widespread, when somebody goes into sins, he can go further and further and further, to the point that, he becomes quite sinful, and he knows about the existence of Akhirah, of Jahannam, of Allah, of the angels that are following, watching over him. So he might want to believe that, what if there was no malaika? What if there was no angels? There were no angels. And there are a lot of ideologies which claim that there is no angels, there is no Akhirah, there is no Allah. So he will give heed to them, and he will think of, he can start thinking like them, okay, because he wants to relieve, right, from the burden of sins. So when he rationally, to him, when he finds some bits of ration of some kind of, way out of his, current position, so he says, okay, I agree with you, and then he, renounces his faith in the malaika, because malaika is always, right, noting down his bad deeds. And then he will also say, okay, there's no akhirah, he will deny akhirah, and there is no Allah, he will deny Allah. So this all happened, this all started with the sins, widespread sins in his life. So this is why, again, we are living in a time in which the philosophy of life of atheism has actually invaded our lives. This is why, and the all kind of opportunities for sins, for misguidance is available, for everyone. So this is why in this age it is quite probable that somebody can lose their Iman on these three grounds, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you very much for that, Brother Yusuf. And I think that's all for today. And I thank Brother Ismail and Brother Yusuf for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much also.
And thanks a lot for watching us. We ask Allah to help us win the case of faith and bestow us a good end in this life. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.